Right now, in late 2025, the impossible is happening. Volkswagen, the symbol of German industrial power, is closing factories in its home country for the first time in 88 years. But 800 kilometers away, in Hungary, they can't build them fast enough. While the rest of Europe is entering a recession and fighting a trade war with China, Hungary is breaking investment records. Real wages are up 10%, unemployment is near zero, and Chinese electric vehicle giants are pouring billions into the country. We've been told for years that Viktor Orbán is isolating his nation. But looking at the numbers, you have to ask a terrifying question. What if he's right? What if, while Brussels was lecturing him, he was busy building the only economy in Europe that actually works for the 21st century? Today, we are looking at the other side of the Orban economy. Welcome to the other side of the argument. 1. The economic neutrality. Masterstroke. Refusing to choose a side. To understand why Viktor Orbán sleeps soundly at night while the rest of Europe panics, you have to understand a concept he calls economic neutrality, or in Hungarian, gazdasági semlegeség. In late 2024, while the US and the EU were busy trying to de-risk and decouple from China, basically trying to break up with the world's factory, Orbán went on the radio and said essentially, "You guys are crazy." He argued that the world is splitting into two giant blocks, the West and the East, and if you join a bloc, you die. Why? Because if you are just a loyal soldier in the Western Bloc, you are at the periphery. You're far from the capital, far from the decisions, and you only trade with half the world. Orbán's solution? Reject the blocs. He wants Hungary to be the keystone state, the only place in Europe where American capital, German engineering and Chinese technology can legally hold hands and make money together. Think of it like this. Germany is trying to ban Chinese EVs to protect its car industry. But the Chinese EVs are coming anyway. They are better, cheaper, and they have the batteries. Instead of fighting the tide, Orbán is building the harbour. In his 2025 action plan, the Hungarian government explicitly stated they want to achieve GDP growth between 3% and 6%, a number that sounds like a fantasy to a stagnant Eurozone economy like Germany, which shrank by 0.1% in 2023 and barely moved in 2024. How? By telling Chinese investors, "Come here, we won't sanction you, we won't lecture you, we will just let you build." And the craziest part, it's working. While Volkswagen is discussing closing plants in Germany for the first time in history, German car giants like BMW are doubling down on Hungary. They know that if they want to survive, they need Chinese tech, and the only safe room where they can meet is Budapest. Let me know in the comments, do you think economic neutrality is genius? Or is it just playing with fire? Can you really be neutral in a Cold War? I read every comment. 2. The battery superpower, where East meets West. Let's stop talking about philosophy and look at the concrete. And I mean a lot of concrete. If you drive down the M5 motorway towards the city of Szeged, you will see the future being built. BYD, the Chinese electric vehicle giant that recently overtook Tesla in global sales, chose Hungary for its first ever European passenger car factory. This is a multi-billion euro investment. It creates thousands of jobs, and crucially, it allows BYD to stamp Made in EU on their cars, bypassing any tariffs Brussels tries to slap on them. But that's just the appetizer. Go east to Debrecen and you'll find CATL. They are the world's largest battery maker. They are building a $7.3 billion gigafactory. That is one of the largest foreign investments in the history of Hungary. Now, here is the 4D chess move that Orbán's critics often miss. Right next door to that Chinese battery plant, BMW is building its own massive factory to produce its Neue Klasse electric vehicles. Do you think that's a coincidence? Absolutely not. BMW needs those CATL batteries, but they can't import them easily from China due to logistics and politics. So Orbán brought the mountain to Mohammed. He created a unique ecosystem where a German luxury car is assembled with a Chinese heart on Hungarian soil. This makes Hungary too big to fail. If Brussels cuts off funding to Hungary, they aren't just hurting Orbán, they are hurting BMW, they are hurting Mercedes. They are hurting the German industrial machine that relies on these Hungarian supply chains. Orbán has effectively turned his country into a human shield made of German car parts. Western media focuses on the guest workers and the environmental protests, which are real issues, don't get me wrong. But from a macroeconomic perspective, Hungary has secured its place in the supply chain for the next 20 years. While Italy and France are fighting over crumbs, Hungary has already eaten the whole cake. Think about the risk though. If the US and China go to actual war, like shooting war, this entire house of cards collapses. But Orban is betting that money talks louder than missiles. And looking at the $5 billion BYD plant rising in Szeged, it's a very loud bet indeed. 3. The family utopia, a tax haven for mothers. While the rest of Europe is debating how to solve its demographic crisis with migration, Viktor Orbán is trying to solve it with cash. Cold, hard cash. This isn't a future promise, this is the law right now. As of October 2025, if you are a Hungarian mother with 3 children, do you know what your personal income tax rate is? 0. Not low, 0. For the rest of your life. This is the most aggressive family policy in the Western world. While German and French families are getting squeezed by inflation, the Hungarian government is effectively turning the country into a tax haven for moms. They have introduced subsidized loans, CSOK, that get written off if you have babies. They offer 7-seater car subsidies. They are spending nearly 4 to 5% of GDP on family support, more than almost any NATO nation spends on its military. The logic. Critics call it social engineering or traditionalist propaganda. But look at the economic logic. Europe is dying. Literally. The workforce is shrinking. Germany needs 400,000 migrants a year just to keep its factories running. Orban looked at that math and said, no, we will build our own workforce. It is an incredibly expensive gamble. It costs billions. But if it works, if Hungary can stabilize its population without relying on mass migration, it will be the only country in Europe with a cohesive, stable society in 2050. And right now, for those 250,000 mothers paying zero tax, the Orban economy doesn't feel like a crisis. It feels like a winning lottery ticket. 4. The full employment. Miracle. From 11% to everyone working. If you want to know why Orban keeps winning elections despite the dictator headlines, you just have to look at this one chart. In 2010, before Orban took power, the unemployment rate in Hungary was over 11%. Today, it is hovering around 4.5%. That is technically considered full employment. In fact, the economy is so hot that they are actually running out of workers. Compare that to Spain, 10.8%, France, 7%, or even Sweden, 8.9%. While young people in southern Europe are struggling to find any job, in Hungary, factories are fighting over workers. And here is the statistic that really upsets the narrative. Real wages are growing again. Yes, 2023 was brutal. Inflation ate everyone's lunch. But in 2024 and 2025, real wages, adjusted for inflation, bounced back, growing by roughly 9–10%. People aren't just working, they're finally starting to feel richer again after the shock. So when the Western media says the economy is collapsing, the average Hungarian voter looks at their paycheck, looks at the help wanted signs in every window and thinks, what collapse? 5. The national capitalist defense, protecting the little guy. But there is a trap. We talked about the Chinese factories and the German cars. The danger is that Hungary just becomes an assembly line colony. A place where foreign giants make money and locals just screw in the bolts. Orban knows this. That is why, in late 2024, his government launched the Demian Sandor program. This is a massive capital injection, billions of forints, designed specifically for SMEs, small and medium enterprises. The goal? To double the size of Hungarian small businesses. They are handing out cheap loans, grants for digitalization, and capital to help local Hungarian companies become suppliers for those big Chinese and German factories. The strategy? They are trying to build a national capitalist class. They don't want Hungary to just be a place where Mercedes builds cars. They want Hungarian companies to make the seats, the glass, and the software for that Mercedes. It is protectionism, pure and simple. But in a world where free trade is dying, protectionism might just be the survival strategy that works. While thousands of small businesses went bankrupt across Europe in 2024 due to energy costs, Hungary is using state intervention to keep its little guys alive. Is it efficient? Free market economists would scream no, but is it keeping the economy stable? The 3% GDP growth projection for 2025 suggests maybe, yes. Quick poll. Would you rather live in an economy with full employment but high inflation risk, or a stable economy with 10% unemployment? It's a tough choice. Vote in the poll card above. 6. The energy pragmatist. Cheap gas is a human right. In our last video, we criticised Hungary for being the only EU nation still hooked on the IV drip of Russian gas. We called it a geopolitical risk, and it is. But today, let's look at the receipts. While German factories are shutting down because electricity costs have tripled, Hungarian manufacturing is booming. Why? Because Viktor Orbán refused to cut the cord. He looked at the sanctions and said, "I will not make my people freeze for a war that isn't ours." The Recession, utility cost reduction. This is the holy grail of Hungarian politics. The government strictly regulates the price of gas and electricity for households. The result? Hungarians pay some of the lowest utility bills in the entire European Union. While a middle-class family in Berlin or London is choosing between heating and eating, a family in Budapest keeps the thermostat on, the competitive advantage. This isn't just about comfort, it's about industry. Those Chinese battery factories we talked about, they consume massive amounts of power. If Hungary had German-level energy prices, BYD and CATL would never have come. By securing cheap, yes, Russian energy, Orbán created a competitive moat that Western Europe simply cannot cross. Is it morally complicated? Some may argue, yes, but from a cold, hard economic perspective, it is the reason the lights are still on in the factory. 7. The Sovereignist. Shield. Why national debt matters. If you want to understand the Orbán gamble, you have to go back to 2008. Hungary was bankrupt. The IMF, International Monetary Fund, and the EU bailed them out, but they imposed strict austerity measures. They told Hungary how to run its budget. Orbán has never forgiven them. Since 2010, his entire economic philosophy has been, never let them hold the checkbook again. In our previous deep dive, we mentioned that the EU froze billions in funding. Critics said this would crush the Hungarian economy. The ATM was closed, but look what happened. Did Hungary collapse? No. Orbán just changed bankers. He issued bonds. He took loans from China. He diversified the national debt so that no single entity, not Brussels, not Washington, not the IMF, could pull the rug out from under him. Is Chinese debt dangerous? Maybe. But is it more dangerous than having your entire economy held hostage by political votes in Brussels? Orbán would argue, at least the Chinese just want their interest payments. They don't ask us to change our constitution. Remember how we discussed the inflation bomb in the last video? That was the painful cost of this transition. But now that inflation is falling, down to 3-4% in 2025, Hungary is emerging with a debt structure that is arguably more resilient because it's not reliant on a single master. 8. The woke capital. Immunity. Rejecting ESG. There is one final piece of the puzzle that explains why some businesses love investing here. Hungary has declared itself a no-go zone for woke capital. In the US and Western Europe, companies are drowning in ESG, environmental, social and governance regulations. They have to report on diversity quotas, carbon footprints and social justice metrics. In Hungary, the government explicitly rejects this. The message to investors is simple. We don't care about your politics. We only care about your profit. For a CEO of a mid-sized manufacturing company, this is incredibly attractive. You come to Hungary, you build your factory, you follow the labour laws, and you go home. You don't get lectured on social issues. This ideological deregulation is a hidden engine of the Orban economy. While the West is prioritising values-based trade, Hungary is prioritising trade-based trade. And in a world where businesses are tired of walking on eggshells, Budapest is positioning itself as the last place where business is just business. Let's get real in the comments. Do you think companies should be forced to follow social goals, ESG, or should they just focus on making products? Hungary picked a side. Which side are you on? 9. The trump card, betting the farm on 47. We have talked about China. We have talked about Russia. But there is one final massive pillar of the Orban economy that we cannot ignore. For years, Viktor Orbán was the only European leader who openly supported Donald Trump. While leaders in Berlin and Paris were rolling their eyes, Orbán was wearing the MAGA hat. He bet his entire diplomatic reputation on one outcome, a Trump victory in 2024. And, well, He won that bet. Remember the peace mission to Moscow and Beijing that everyone in Brussels hated? In hindsight, it looks less like a rogue move and more like a job interview. Orbán positioned himself as the only man in Europe who can pick up the phone and talk to Washington, Moscow, Beijing and Kiev on the same afternoon. With the Trump administration now back in the White House, as of Jan 2025, Hungary is no longer the black sheep. It is the bridge. While Germany and France are scrambling to figure out how to deal with new US tariffs, Orbán is sitting pretty. He has the personal relationship. He has the ideological alignment. If the war in Ukraine ends through a deal brokered by Trump, something Orbán has pushed for since day one, Hungary stands to become the logistical hub for the reconstruction of Eastern Europe. He didn't just bet on a horse, he bet on the whole racetrack, and right now, he is holding the winning ticket. 10. The verdict. The laboratory of the future. So we return to our original question. What if he is right? It is easy to criticize Hungary. The data says corruption is real. The centralization of power is real. The rhetoric can be nasty. But if you look purely at the macro strategy, you have to admit something uncomfortable. While the rest of Europe is trapped in a slow-motion decline, paralyzed by debt, aging populations and de-industrialization, Hungary is actively trying to mutate. It is trying to become a new kind of state, part Chinese factory, part German workshop, part American ally, part Russian energy hub. It is a Frankenstein economy. It is weird. It is risky. But unlike the stagnant economies of Western Europe, it is alive. If Orbán's gamble succeeds, he won't just save the Hungarian economy. He will prove that the liberal democracy model isn't the only way to be rich and modern in Europe. He will prove that national sovereignty pays better than European unity. And that is the thing that truly terrifies Brussels. Not that he will fail, but that he might succeed. With this, we end of our deep dive on the Orban economy. So, where do you stand? Are you team values, believing Europe should stick to its principles even if it costs money? Or are you team pragmatism, believing that in a cold world, the only thing that matters is keeping the factory running? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.